So, welcome to our seventh Open for Business webinar. This is Ku-ring-gai Council's program to support local business. We've had some great sessions since April 15, and today I'm really pleased to welcome Brendan Ryan, who's the Managing Director of Business Positive. Now, Brendan's been working advising businesses for a long time, and he's passionate about helping SMEs really take their business to the next level. Today, Brendan will be talking about business planning. Sometimes this is a topic which doesn't provide a lot of excitement, but it's really, really necessary. And certainly in my experience, a lot of small businesses probably don't spend enough time in planning what they're doing. So this period of time at the moment is a great opportunity to bring things together and plan for the future. And Brendan will be going through a process with you this morning. So hopefully out of the end of this, you'll have certainly a better idea of where your business is going and what you want to achieve. But I will hand over to Brendan now. And yes, please enjoy. Make sure that you ask any questions. Feel free to chat in the chat box. And as I said, we're recording this, so I will be sharing this afterwards. And Brendan, I'm sure, will be happy to provide some of the slides as well. So Brendan, over to you.
Thank you, Will, and hello, everyone. As Will said, yeah, the coronavirus has been a testing time for us, and it has made a lot of changes, which means a lot of us need to update our business plans or start a business plan. And it shouldn't be just about dealing with how to survive with coronavirus. We should be all looking at ways to actually improve our businesses. It's something we can do. We can actually de-risk it if something happens. We're in a very volatile market. So trying to create a smooth, streamlined business where you as a business owner actually get to enjoy your time working in a business is also really important. As I work with small businesses, I'm a small business owner myself. And we work with business owners, not just improve their businesses, but make them wealthy and happier. There's a real balance between your personal and your business life. For us small business owners, they are so tightly linked, it's not funny. So what I'm going to do with you today, by the way, these are my personal contact details, so if you do want to reach out and ask questions, please do so. Okay, what we're going to do today, so you should have seen, received two templates from Will. The first document is a how-to document, and I want you to have a copy of that on you now because we're basically going to work through that. So please feel free to scribble on it, write notes, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot to get through. You're not probably going to complete a business plan today, but today it should stimulate you to ask yourselves those questions. So the how-to document is something you can keep coming back to, okay? The to-do document, there's a second document which is blank, okay? That is once you've taken all the notes out of what we do today, you then apply it to your actual document and build your business case, okay? So that's the two. Keep the how-to document open in front of you now, and we're going to work through that, okay? I've created a bit of a 12-step process for the business planning, okay? And that involves not just the different stages of your business, but what to do with the business plan. So many people spend a lot of time on a plan and then put in a drawer, and it's wasted. So we want to make sure you actually develop it and then use it and get the most out of it, okay? So yeah, we're going to go through step by step those 12 steps today. And as I said, you may not produce a document that's suitable now, but hopefully I give you the skills to produce your own. So as I said, use this time to stimulate ideas. I need to do this, I don't need to do that. Just jot points and we're going to build your plan accordingly, okay? As I said, it's the most important steps, the last couple, which is how to use your plan and then how to implement the plan, okay? So that's what we're going to go through today. The 12 steps, okay, the first point, as I said, as a small business owner, it's really important to look at your personal position and how you work. We all spend a lot of time at work. We also have lives and families and all that sort of stuff. So it's really important we balance that. I want to look at your business and what you do now, whether you have an existing plan or you're starting from scratch. We want to look at your business sort of almost pre-coronavirus. And then we want to look at the market and we want to investigate here the changes in the market. What's coronavirus done? What's happening in the market? So we apply the changes against what we do and see if they match up, okay? The next few stages are going to be the nuts and bolts of your business and how to improve it, whether it's corona impacted or not. We want to look at the processes within your business, because actually understand your processes allows you to change them. And we want to go through a bit around process mapping. We want to look specifically at your sales, and we're going to look at your sales distinct from your marketing. We're going to look at your operations, your HR, and your financing figures. Okay, so all the core components of running your business. We're going to break those down. And hopefully you get lots of good ideas out of these things to put into your plan around what you're going to deliver into your business. Okay. Part 10 is we actually wrap it all together and create your strategy. Okay. And a strategy doesn't have to be a fundamental change or a pivot, as is the current buzzword. It could just be, I'm going to improve the things I do now. You know, so don't think that a strategy has to be mind-blowing. It could be just, I'm going to de-risk, de-stress, and improve. Okay. I'm going to give you some hints around how to implement your plan. And then 12 is how to monitor and react and improve. Okay, because the market changes so rapidly. It's quite scary how quickly things change. So whatever you put in your plan, it is not set in stone, and it should not be the same plan that you have in years to come. You should constantly be reviewing it. Okay. So hopefully you get a lot out of this. As I said, if you've got questions, please chat. Will's going to interrupt me at various times when we're in the stages for questions. We hopefully will have time for Q&A at the end. If not, I do have my contact details, so you can reach out and ask questions, okay? All right. First point I want to look at is just around your personal position. When coronavirus hit, I personally, one of my biggest fears was, okay, well, if my business fails, how's that going to impact my home? So understanding what your personal costs are is really important. And I don't just mean how much money I need to take out of the business. I also mean how much time do I need to put into my wife and my kids? What's my health like? Because if my health deteriorates, then I'm not going to run the business effectively. So have a personal budget, okay? What's your plan B? Do you have a fallback position? If your business fails and your house gets taken, what are you going to do? Okay, there's no point worrying about things that might happen, but be prepared. Okay, be prepared. You know, I actually had a plan in place that if I needed to, I'd get, you know, then the house goes and move in with my mother-in-law, so be it. But I knew what was going to happen. Okay, again, the more you can control that, the better you can control what you need to draw from your business. So it's really important. Work-life balance, again, really, really important. You've got family commitments, you might have church commitments, you might have hobbies, you might have health, okay? A lot of us, unfortunately, live to work, where I'm a big believer of working to live, okay? And some of the objectives you want to get out of your business plan is to free up yourself to enjoy what you do more and get more out of life, okay? So work-life balance, really important, understand it. I take time off for kids' birthdays, wife's birthdays, anniversaries, important days. So they're in my calendar and I block them out. It's really important to me, so I have that balance. Okay, exit strategy. You know, some of you may only be beginning your business cycle, but the reality is at some point you need to exit. And this is around your personal goals as well, because when do you want to exit? What are you going to do? What do you need to get out? How old do you want to be? And it also means that it could be restrictions around how long your business plan is, depending on your age. So if you're a youngster, you know, you've got a long way to go, but still considering your exit strategy is important, because, you know, you could, you know, be looking for a succession where you pass it off to your kids, or if you're going to sell to one of your staff, or all sorts of things. There's lots of different points you could do. So it's really important you actually consider your structure and that now. And so this is a conversation you can have with your accountant. So consider the longer term. You'll notice I've got actions here. So at the end of every section in that working document is a point that says actions. As I say things and you think, oh, that's an idea, write down your actions, okay? And some of these could be must-dos, oh, I must do that, and something could be, oh, that would be nice to do. There's different priorities here, but just jot them down and collect them. We will manage and prioritize all these later. But as we go through, and as I stimulate ideas, write them down, okay? That's what that action section's for. As I said, you may not have time to review all this. Keep coming back to each of these. You can keep coming back at any stage. You might want to look at this 10 different times. You might want to, when you have your thinking time, whether it be in the shower or, after a good night's sleep, come back and think again, okay? But personal position, really important before you even start about the business. Okay, so the business model. And what I mean by that is let's cover off the basics around what your business does. Define what you do and what you offer. So are you a product or are you a service? And by that, a product is, I sell a can of beans and it's a physical product that someone can see and touch and feel. I offer a service, so it's an intangible thing. So a hairdresser is a service. A restaurant or a cafe is a bit of a mix because you get a product, which is the food, but you actually get the service, which is the preparation and the dining and all that sort of the experience. So do you do a product or service? Do you B2B, so business to business? Do you sell your product to a business or do you sell it to a consumer because they have different behaviors? Is your product essential or is it discretionary? So under a pandemic or when the economy is really tight, people will keep buying your essentials such as food. Whereas if you're offering a discretionary product, such as a Ferrari, when the money's tight, people aren't going to be buying Ferraris, but they will be buying food. So you've got to look at where the risk profile of your product is, okay? And again, you've got to look at your value proposition. Are you cheap and cheerful or are you high value, high service? Again, understanding what you do and what you offer is fundamental to who you target and how you target them. So that's going to be addressed when we look at the marketing section, but understand what you do, okay? There is a big section on, if you look at the document, and we're actually on page 6 of the working document, you also see what, how, why. And this is a little bit fluffy, and some of you may struggle with this, but the what is defining what you do. That's pretty easy. Most of you can do that. The how is defining how you do it. So, for example, I sell beans, but how I provide great service and good, it's all quality, and I engage my clients and all that sort of stuff. It's not that I just put it online and sell it. Okay, so it's the how, what makes you different. The why concept is, it's an interesting one. And I've actually got a link in there to a TED Talk by a guy called Simon Sinek. Have a look at it. It might stimulate some thoughts. But the why is, what's the fundamental purpose of what you do? So you go back to the bean person and their principle may be, I sell beans because it's a good dietary source of fiber that's going to help save the world and it's good for the environment. So I'm actually going to feed the world and save the world, and that's my why. If you're selling the why with that offer, it's far more, intrinsic than a can of beans. It's just a can of beans. But if you're saving the world, people will buy into it, believe it or not. So see if you can consider this for your business. It might be hard. It might take a couple of attempts. Okay. The culture of your business this becomes really important as you get bigger, as you engage your customers and as you engage staff in particular. And the culture is it can be hard to define, but it's more how you want to be defined going forward. Do you want to be cutthroat, ruthless business, or do you want to be a friendly, family-based business that looks after, its customers and its clients? Do you want to be a top-down where you're a bit of a dictator and you tell everyone what to do, or do you want to be open and let people share good ideas with you? So you as the owner start setting the culture, but you've got to have an understanding of where you want it to be, okay? So again, just drop notes as you think of these things. And some of it may not be clear now why we're doing this, but once you put it all together and we start devising the strategy, these things are going to be important. I just want you to do a SWOT. And again, I've got a template in the working document. SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I want you to think about what are the strengths in your business, okay? And the reason you want to know the strengths is because you can then market them and sell them and use them to improve your business. I then want you to look at your weaknesses. So I don't have the right systems, I'm not good at sales. So these are weaknesses. So this is something that your competitor can exploit. So it's something you want to fix. So jot down your weaknesses. And again, if it's a weakness, it creates an action. Okay, I'm weak at that, I need to improve it. How? Again, action. What do you do about it? So be aware, we're going to have a lot of actions because every step we might have multiple actions. So just keep jotting them down. Don't worry about anything else. Just keep jotting down your actions until late when we put them together. Opportunities is obviously if you've had a thought about, oh, I sell this product, but I can sell this one as well. Or I sell it in this region, but I can sell it in that region as well. These are all opportunities. I haven't got a website. I can sell them online. That's an opportunity. So all those opportunities which you thought I could do that or I should do that, jot them down. Because again, we want to prioritize those and work out, well, let's do it. Again, threats. Threats are the risks in your business. Again, it's really important you understand what they are because then you can do something about it. Again, you may not know the answers now. Have a think, jot them down, come back to it and start putting down the actions to deal with the threats. We will actually look at a risk assessment later on, which should cover all this off. But, putting into the SWOT is just a good basic way to capture the real key elements of your business and what you're doing now. Again, actions. Okay, so on that page, as you go through it, jot down what actions you now need to capture and apply into your business later. All right. Well, any questions at this stage?
Nothing as yet. Nothing as yet. So actually, there's one, Fiona. Okay, all good. All good. All good.
All good?
Yeah.
Okay. So as I said, keep questions coming in. If we can't get them during the thing, we will answer them at the end. And there is a lot, so I do warn you to just keep scribbling. Keep scribbling as much as you can. Okay. The next big section, and this is the component that's really applicable relating to the coronavirus. And this is understanding the market, because the market has changed considerably in the last 3 months. Changed very quickly, very rapidly. So we want you to actually define your customer and market. We previously talked about what you do. Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it discretionary? I want you to think about who your customer is. And again, if you look on the page 8 of your working document, I've put some questions there that, start your thinking and defining your customers. So if it's to a business, what's the business type? Who's the decision maker, either in the business or in the household? So without being stereotyping, in most households, the household shopping is still done by the mother. So, in terms of the decision maker, if you're selling some lollies, the kids will influence the mum, but the mum might still make the decision. Dads are just useless at shopping. I'm guilty of that. We try and do our best, but we always get the wrong size things and all that sort of stuff. So in my household, my wife does the most of it. If you're targeting a customer who is the decision maker, what's their gender? What's their age? Different products are bought by different age groups. What's their budget? Again, go back to that model. Are you the high value, high cost, or are you the cheap and cheerful? Because the budget influences who your customer is. Okay, so the more you can define them, the better you can understand them and the better you can communicate to them. So again, this is going to be really important when we look at our marketing. But it's really important that you understand your customer, okay? A lot of people do marketing at a shotgun. We go for everyone, but the reality is there's really a defined marketer who's going to buy your product or service. The other thing to think of, with your customers is, where are they? Where do they work? What do they read? What TV do they look at? What social media platforms do they use? So if I'm targeting a business in terms of social media, they're more likely to be sort of LinkedIn users. Whereas a consumer product, I'm probably more likely to influence them on Facebook. Okay, so have a think around that. Again, if you don't know, ask them. Okay, find someone who's in your and ask the questions. Someone in most people's age groups, sort of say, hey, how does this work? Call a customer, find out. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Use the voice of a customer and find out what they're doing. A big thing around the customer is, are you fulfilling a need? Is your product, for example, a candy bar, someone walks in the shop, the need is instant. It's like, oh, I see that, I want that, I'm going to take it, as opposed to something where it's a business thing where you're actually de-risking it, or there's a real need to buy it. It's quite a different process. So understanding that is quite important. If you're selling something that solves a problem and saves some money for someone else, then they're buying it based on the value of the product, not the dollar value that they're buying it for. And if you can tell someone, it comes back to the beans, if they're buying it just to get a meal, great. But if they're buying it because it's got additives in it that makes their children smarter, they'll pay more for it because they're fulfilling the need of getting smart kids, not just feeding their kids. So try and understand the needs of the customer and see if you're filling a need. You've also got to understand their decision process. As I said, that chocolate bar, it's filling an immediate need. Whereas if you are, for example, an electrician or any other trade, you might be, have to visit the client. You might then have to give them a quote. The client may get other quotes and they're comparing the quotes, and then they make a decision and then you start the job. So there can actually be quite a long time for the decision process to occur. Right from the start, where they look and they Google electricians in my local region, they find you, they call you, boom, boom. It's a long process. And again, we'll look at that as part of the sales process, but you've got to understand what the decision process is and when you can influence your clients. Okay, once you understand all that, you've got to consider well, what's my messages? How do I talk to my clients? Am I talking to them now? And is it relevant? So we'll come back to a lot of this in the marketing, but you're starting to build a picture of who you talk to, what their needs are, how they make a decision. So you're going to start formulating, a message or how you need to talk to them. Okay, so we'll delve into that later, but understand your customer. All right, the other thing you've got to look at is understanding your competitors. And again, they may have changed because of coronavirus. They may have fallen over because of coronavirus, which is great. But what do your competitors do? How do they work? How successful are they? What do they say? Okay, and again, you may have a direct competitor who does exactly what you do, or you might have a direct competitor who sells something different. So instead of the can of beans, instead of that someone's going to sell a pie. So it's a different product, but it's sort of fulfilling the same need. Whereas if you're selling the Ferrari, one of the competitors is, no, I'm not doing it. They're not going to make the transaction. So you've got to understand what your competition is. I would stalk them. So go onto their websites, go into their social media, see what their customers say about them, see what they offer. You can see where the complaints are. And you can either do or copy and replicate what they do, or find a successful one and try and replicate it, or you can be different. Okay, it's two different strategies: replicate a good one or be different. Okay, and that's where I've got a bit of a table in the working document, which is the unique value proposition. And this is the overlap between what your client wants, what you offer, and what your competitor offer. Ideally, there's a green segment there, which is your unique value proposition, where you're offering something that no one else offers. Okay, and this is a real selling point for you because your competitors cannot compete in that space. What you don't want to see is that orange segment, which is the competitor's competitive advantage. It's a little bit wordy, but that's where they're selling something which is quite unique and you don't have that product. So customers might be going, oh, I want that in my product, so I'm going to go to them. You're not an option for me. And it cuts you out of the market, cuts you out of the model. Okay? So you've got to think, do you have anything that's unique? If you do, are you selling it? Are you marketing it? Are you promoting it? Again, this comes back into where we look at the marketing. Alternatively, does your competitor have something that you cannot match? So we might want to change that, or again, do something completely different again. So that's where your UVP is. Again, it's a very important marketing piece. A pestle was an analysis tool where it looks at the wider market, and I'll put a table in the document there for you to go through. And this is really important with coronavirus because it's changed a lot of these factors and it makes you look outside your own little piece. So I want you to look at the political environment. So for example, politics are controlling our access to the market at the moment. If you, like some of my clients are involved in international travel, so they are very impacted by the politicians' decision around opening up the competition in the market. So what your politicians do is very, very relevant to your business at the moment. We also find that every time there's an election, everyone freezes and goes, oh my God, the world's going to end. We're having an election. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is, as soon as the election results through, everyone starts trading again. It's crazy. It happens every year. Well, not every year, but every election cycle. But this has an impact on your business. Obviously, the economy has a big impact, and Corona has a big impact on the economy. So particularly if you've got those high value discretionary products, your market may not be looking at that high end. They may be looking more value driven, more economic, more efficient type products than the real glossy ones. So people may not be buying a Ferrari, they may be buying a Toyota. So consider that way. There's greater risk when the economy goes down. So consider that. Social media, obviously there's a huge amount of trends that are socially driven. Pre-coronavirus, the environment was huge. After the bushfires, the floods, all that, everyone's going, okay, environment, global warming. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I think it's time we did something about it. And there was a huge impact on like food. So particularly if you're doing food, there was a lot around packaging. So it was no longer good enough to have recyclable packaging. You've got to have biodegradable packaging. And I think at the moment, the focus has gone off that a moment because everything's focused on COVID. So it's around cleanliness. It's around social distancing. It's all those social drivers at the moment are really important. But you've got these other ones in the background around environment and that's going to come back into play. So consider that if it impacts your business. Consider that particularly if you're on food, really important. Technical, obviously, we working from home, we've been all forced into using things like Zoom. We used to turn up to an event and have a couple of drinks and have a chat, and now it's all on Zoom. So we've been driven towards technology, particularly online computers and that sort of stuff. Embrace it. That it's getting better. Some of the systems that are out there are brilliant, but be aware in case some of these systems can replace what you do now. Think back to Kodak and the camera days, which, now we've all got phones and no one has a camera. This is it. So beware of the risk of the technology. Again, environmental, I've discussed that a bit, but just be aware if you've got a manufacturing process that emits waste or anything like that. And obviously on the legal side, there are restrictions on business around particularly licensing. So if you're an electrician, for example, if you want to do tier 2, tier 1 work, you've got to be accredited to do it. And so there is restrictions on who can do what. Just be aware of that. Okay, once you've sort of done that analysis on the picture, go back to part 2 and look at, well, who was my customer, all that sort of stuff, what was my product, and is it still relevant? So we've seen there's been some changes in the market where the customer may have been working in offices, is now working from home like I am. Even, it might take a long time for a lot of people to return to the cities because transport's not good. Who wants to get in a lift at the moment when someone sneezes? So there's going to be a long lag time around that. So if you've got a cafe in the city, for example, what's going to happen? Okay, are we going to turn it back on and it's back to pre-COVID days, or are we going to have a transition time, or am I going to change completely and my home delivery, delivered to the office model worked? Okay, so is your product still relevant? Again, I don't expect you to answer this straight away. I want this to just stimulate your thoughts. So start writing your questions down, okay? And again, it may not just be COVID related. You might see an opportunity to sell a different product, or, go back to all those opportunities that we identified in the SWOT. Let's embrace some of those. Let's use this time to actually make our business bigger and better. Can we cross-sell? So now I'm selling beans. Can I sell the pie and the beans? So the client's got choices, and I'm going to capture a sale either way, okay? There's all these different ways we can look to expand your business. So just get the brain working, start jotting down the ideas, bear in mind who your customer is, what your customer needs are, and make sure it's aligned, okay? Again, write down your actions, Okay, really important to understand this piece. I cannot reiterate this enough. This is probably the most important part of the whole thing. Okay, the next few sections are going to be more around managing the nuts and bolts of what you do and how you do it. That was the fun stuff. This is going to be a little bit more technical, but very important. And it's where you can make some really good changes, not just about massively radically changing your business, but making your business more efficient and more profitable, which we all need to do. Okay. The first thing is process mapping, or understanding end-to-end what you currently do. And on page 11 of the document, I've got a very high-level process map there. You don't need a big software to process map. Most process mapping exercises involve sticking post-it notes to walls. Okay, it's how we all do it, how we all started. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then you start plugging in all the different inputs. Okay, this is a piece of equipment, this is a staff member, this is a supplier. So you can break it down to layers. So no business is step 1 to 10, that's it, that's the entire business. You might have an invoicing process, which is 20 steps in its own right. You might have a sales process, which is 100 steps. You may have a manufacturing process. So you can actually create layers upon layers upon layers. But it sounds onerous, and when you are the only person in business, it's quite fundamental because you've actually learned how to do it and you know it by default. But because of that, you've probably never actually reviewed it to look at it and make it efficient. And if you get a staff member or someone joins you, how do you train them on the process that you naturally do? It's really hard. So it's really good for training. It's the basis of like sort of an ISO accreditation, which is an indication of the quality of the company. And if you want to grow and go forward and take target bigger customers, and ISO accreditation is really good. And the basis of ISO accreditation is you've mapped out your process and understand step by step how to do it. Okay. So yeah, really important for procurement, stock takes, all that sort of stuff. Understand the process and making sure that you can hand it off to someone else and go, follow this process, and it's going to be done. Okay. The other part of the process is understanding the issues and bottlenecks. And you may not really understand this now until you map it out, but generally there will be areas where you've had complaints before. Areas where this is hard work. I've got a piece of machinery that keeps breaking down. I know this piece of machinery can put out one item an hour. So therefore my limitation is 8 per day if I do an 8-hour day or 40 a week. That's my bottleneck. I've got a customer who wants 100 and I can only produce 40. So I've got a real bottleneck around this single piece of machinery, or a single person. So it can be a person, it can be a piece of equipment, it can be money. So all sorts of bottlenecks. It could be, for example, I'm making this object which my customer wants. I've got to get my parts. My parts come from China and it's shipped and it takes 12 weeks. Okay, that's a bottleneck. You cannot speed that process up. So you've either got to store lots of stuff. It's a problem. Imagine if you could get a local one that can supply it in 1 week. It really smooths up the process. There's probably maybe a cost implication, but it changes your model. Okay, so this is where measuring your process and then understanding it, you can actually start causing. This is where I'm getting problems. This is where I've got bottlenecks. If things are going to change, what do I need to change in my process? And again, don't do it all yourself. You've got to actually get other people to do it. So capacity is a big one, as we said, understanding it, because really what we're trying to do here is improve your business and grow. So you can't grow or sell more stuff if you can't produce it or if you can't get it. So understanding your capacity is really important, and it goes hand in hand with your sales. The worst thing to do is sell some stuff and then you can't deliver it. Even if you advertise, I'm a cafe, I'm advertising this special, and you go and I'll take the special, please. No, I haven't got it. I've been to KFC when they didn't have chicken. Things like that happen. You've got to manage your capacity really importantly. Now, once you've got your map or your stick notes on the wall, you want to change, you want to increase your capacity, you want to de-risk it. this is the chance to re-engineer your process. Tweak bits and pieces. I'm no longer producing part A, I'm now producing part B. What do you need to change? Think back what you might have talking about embracing technology. Can I introduce a system that's going to change this and make this better? Can I actually reduce? I'm really busy. I'm doing 60 hours a week. I only want to do 40. How can I take 20 hours of my time by bringing in a system or a process or a staff member? Okay. You can re-engineer anything. And you'll be surprised what efficiency gains you can get and what profit gains you can get out of re-engineering your process without actually increasing your sales. Ideally, you get sales and efficiency would be the ideal thing. But again, just have a think about this. You may not know this till you go through the mapping exercise. So the first action might be, I need to map my processes, okay? As I said, post-it notes, scribble, inputs, outputs. Once you've got that, you can actually, how long and how much it costs. So you can actually understand step by step, what is the cost of running my business? Sometimes I've had customers who charge an X amount. I said, how did you come up with that amount? And said, I don't know, I just guessed it. But if you know that your product costs, $10, then you can say, well, I need to charge at least 15 to cover my overheads and my profit. So you can better understand what you need to charge in the market. Okay, so that's processes. So boring, but essential. Okay, really essential. Some of you who are operationally inclined will really like it. Okay, now we're on sales. So again, fundamental to the business, but often not well done. Particularly those of us who start a business based on a technical skill rather than a personality thing. So sales requires that getting out there and talking to people and being in people's faces to a degree in a positive way. And I'm going to treat sales very differently from marketing here because they are quite distinct skill sets. But sales is what your business does to get them in the door. And a sales process, again, this is another example. If you go back to step 4, you can map out your sales process. And it could be you have a sign above your shop, someone looks at your sign and goes, I'm hungry, I want food, walks in the door and buys that chocolate bar that's on the counter. Sounds simple, but what about if there's a queue? What happens to that person? How do you retain that person in the shop? Personally, I don't like queues, I'll walk out. But sometimes, like if you walk in the door, you've got a number, you go, oh, right, I'm committed now, I've got a number and I can see my numbers going down, so I'm going to stay. So there's different ways you can actually change your sale process, even if you don't think there is a process, there is. As I said, the business-to-business sales process can be very long and very cumbersome. So understanding the process is really important. Understand how passive versus reactive it is. And most small businesses, it's passive. You might have a website and then you wait for the phone to ring. It's passive. You're not actually picking up the phone and talking to someone or strategically targeting a customer. If you've got a business that sells a lot of stuff to one type of customer, find out who the other customers are, other targets, and contact them and say, hey, I sell to this customer, they're really happy, they love our product, why don't you try it? That's being proactive, okay? And that's where I want you all to get to. So go back to your processes. We've just created 20 hours free time for you. What are you going to do with that 20 hours? If you can put 10 of it back into a sales thing, you're going to increase your business, okay? But have a think, understanding the process, understanding the person, understanding your message. Now it's all starting to fit together, okay? And obviously we've got to start looking at, well, what is your desired sales process? Not your current, what's your desired? So we've got to go back again. Who are we talking to? Who are we targeting? A sales funnel. So again, I've put on page 13 a bit of a sales funnel. And generally it sort of goes from a leads created, the person might be interested or not. If they're interested, it goes to a good opportunity or you lose them. If the opportunity is good, you can actually issue, it's a real thing, and they say, yeah, I'm actually want to know, send me a proposal. You go to proposal, and then you want to lose it. So that's how your funnel works. As I said, there'll be different times as things go through the funnel, and you'll lose people at different stages of the funnel. So understanding how your funnel works and the timelines is very important. As I said, the model where someone walks in the shop, it's very quick. I've seen it, I'm buying it. So, there's no lag time. Whereas that person who's working with the council or the tradies who've got to send a quote, it's a lot longer. And if you understand where you're losing jobs, you can then address why you've lost it. Is it because you didn't present well when you went and inspected the plumbing or the electrical job? Is it because your quote wasn't clear about what you're doing? Was it because of price? So understanding the issues. And it's not always price, okay? The whole idea of this is we don't sell on price, we sell on value. The more we can sell on value, the better, okay? Okay, funnel management. So this is, again, you sort of understand your sales process, you understand your clients, you understand there is a funnel, but what are you doing to manage your funnel? And the first thing you've got to do is record it. So I've just jotted down a basic Excel spreadsheet where I've got the name of the client, the size of the value, what stage they're at, who's the contact, and what my next steps are. If that's all you do and you're doing nothing, it's a good start. Okay, so put an action on that. You may have heard of a CRM, which is a client relationship management tool. It's a piece of software, and there's some basic free ones you can get, or there's some very complex and very expensive ones on the market. For a small business, it's quite hard because it's rubbish in, rubbish out. And if it's quite simple, just have it on the board, have it on the wall. You can manage your customers that way, but do manage them. Okay, it's really important because basically we're looking at improving our sales. So just do anything you can to do it, and don't just, this is where I want you to change from that passive to the reactive. Managing your funnel is those that are in the funnel. How are you managing those outside your funnel who aren't yet there? Okay, a lot of businesses record their success based on when a sale is done. Okay, you should actually be looking at the start of the funnel when you're targeting before it even comes into a lead. That's where you should be active. That's where you should be monitoring, not down here. All of a sudden you go, oh, I haven't got any sales today. Well, if you'd known that 6 months ago when you've got no leads, you knew there was going to be no sales. Okay, so don't wait till then to react. Go back here, manage it up here. So manage your funnel. Understand if I've got no leads or no opportunities, I need to really be proactive and get a lot of leads. And otherwise, at some point, I'm going to fall into a hole. Okay, success formula for sales. And this is it's a pretty basic formula. Success to me, and I've got it documented there on page 14. So sales success to me and to a lot of business is made up of three things. It's made up on the level of activity, times your conversion rate, times your margin. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses judge themselves based on turnover. Turnover is not a success. So you can increase your turnover, which increases your workload and increases your risk, but you don't increase your profit. All you've done is work harder and have more risk. And a lot of businesses, small businesses that grow, experience this. Their costs go up, all these sorts of things, but they just seem to be doing more, getting busier, more tired, more stressed, no greater return to themselves. Okay, so sales success is activity by conversion by margin. So increasing your margin, making it profitable. Okay. Activity can be marketing. So you could be posting LinkedIn articles, website articles, all that sort of stuff. And having a great marketing person ties into this fantastically. And we'll discuss that a little bit more, but it could be you picking up the phone. It could be you talking to your existing clients. Existing clients are a great source of it. So, but the more times you call them, the more you'll increase your sales. Okay. So sales activity, your conversion rate. So as we look back in your funnel, you may get 10 leads, but you only convert one of them. Why? Okay. How do I increase my conversion? And if you go back to understanding, all the things we looked at earlier, we know who our client is. We know what their needs are. We know what their decision-making process is. So if we adjust the way we communicate them to reinforce the value of what they do, they're more likely to buy your product than just looking at a price. Because if they don't understand the product, they're just comparing apples versus oranges, they've got the option not to choose your product. Having the right messages to the right people will increase your conversion rate. Okay, so greater activity and greater conversion. And the last thing is the margin. So you might have a product that is $100, but you make $10 on it. So you've got a 10% margin. Great. Okay, sell a lot of those. Or you might have a product that is less, it only costs $50, but you make $20 margin. Now, if you sell more of the second product, your turnover is going to go down, but your profit's going to go up. Okay, so your margin's really important. Again, you can't go and sell all your product and by discounting. If you've got that $100 product and you only make $10 and you discount it to $90, well, there's your profit. Yes, your turnover may go up, your sales may go up, but your margin has gone. So if you start addressing these in your sales, the three factors, the change to your bottom line can be substantial. All you want to do is tweak each of them. Okay, increase your activity, you can control that. Increase your conversion by improving the way you're communicating and make sure you're tackling the margin by selling value, not competing on price and undercutting. Okay, if you're successful at that, your sales will be fantastic. Okay, it may take a lot of time and it's very dependent on the market and all those other factors, but it will give you the best chance. Again, actions. Think back on what we've just discussed, jot down your actions. And the first action is build a plan and have a calendar. I mean, I actually have a sales calendar. I know when I'm going to do events like this. This is a sales event for me. When I'm going to go out and see clients, when I'm going to see it. And so I actually lock down times to do it. So otherwise it's very easy to get bogged down in your work, picking up phones, answering emails, and you forget about it. But if you could structure your day to say, okay, the morning, every Wednesday morning, I'm doing sales. And I'm talking to my marketing team, I'm talking to all my good customers, I'm getting feedback from them, I'm seeking referrals, I'm contacting leads, all that sort of stuff. You're actively pushing your funnel through. That's activity. You can do it, you can control it, okay? When you get bigger, you're going to employ salespeople. But until that time, you are it. And generally the owner is the best person to sell their business because they understand they're the most passionate person about it. So don't be afraid of sales. Questions, Will? How are we going? Is there anything that anyone's raised now?
All good at the moment, all good. There was one earlier that I missed, which was just about the SWOT analysis.
Yes.
And it was just to clarify, am I right that S and W are internal and O and T are external?
Could be internal or external, but generally, yes. I mean, you could look at it as a strength internally, but you could also look at it as a strength compared to your competitors.
Okay.
So you can look internally and externally on every aspect.
Okay.
So look at it at yourself first, but then there was that second component where you look at yourself in comparison to competitors.
Great. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so marketing. Now, marketing is a bit of a science. It is, I outsource marketing. And I've got a really good person I work with who does some fantastic marketing for me because it is a real skill set. I'm happy to go and talk to people, but the marketing helps me refine my message in a marketing way that helps cut through the noise. There's so much noise out there. So how you market is really important. Again, this is on page 15, so have a look. I've asked you a number of questions on your working document already about your existing marketing to start. What do you do now? Okay, do you have a website? If you do have a website, is it e-commerce enabled? Can you sell a product via your website? It's really important with coronavirus because a lot of people went online to do shopping. They couldn't go to a shop. So online shopping is it. Okay, it's something that has been embraced by a lot of people, and I don't think it's something that's going to go away, particularly males. I hate shopping. I hate going to a shop. If I can do it online, great, okay? I just get the shakes when I go into a shopping centre. It's just an awful place. So, you know, again, depending on your product, you may actually have a better success rate doing it online than traditional. Excuse me. Do you have physical signage? Do you have printed material? Do you have social media? And again, does your social media match your target audience? Do you have followers? Have you asked followers? On LinkedIn, on Facebook, you can actually ask people to follow you. You can actually ask them to rate you because a lot of that stuff really helps your messaging, helps new customers look at this and go, oh, what's my risk of talking to this person? Oh, look, you know, so-and-so down the road who I know and trust has used them and says they're really good. I feel good about buying from these guys now. So that sort of stuff, breaking down that trust barrier for new clients, really important. So are you doing that now? Do you have a good brand? Does your brand actually match what you offer? Is it appealing to your customer? Okay, you know what you do. You know who your customer is. How are you messaging? Well, what are you talking to them? And the other big mistake that a lot of us do, particularly those of us who are technical, is we write technical jargon in our messaging. You know, I'm good at doing blah, 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 or even like buying a laptop. Like you're also looking at a computer. I look at the sales for a laptop and it's got this many this and this many that, and it means nothing to me. I want something that says, you're a business owner, doing a lot of this, doing a lot of that, doing a lot of that. This is the perfect one for you. It's rugged because if you drop it because you're clumsy, it's going to be pretty strong. The kids can't kill it. It's got a lot of software protection, so security, it's all good. That's what I want to know, right? I don't want to know the technical aspects because it means nothing to me. So make sure you're writing material to your audience. And often we've got to dumb it down because our customers are not on the same level as you around your product. They have a need. Talk to them about the need, not the specific aspects, okay? So look at your current marketing. How have you got it currently written if you're doing anything, okay? You may not have this, so it may not be relevant. I apologize for wasting your time, but, you know, look at what you're doing. Okay, now we're going to look back. We've on section 3, we looked at the market, okay? What's your, you know, if you go back and do your what, how, why, is that part of your marketing? Particularly if you've got a why, you know, why I'm going to save the world, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about something, I do this because I want to make a difference. Is that put out in your marketing? Are you selling a can of beans or are you saving the world and solving hunger? Okay, is your marketing, you know, up to date with your messaging? Is your messaging targeting your customer? Okay, are we talking about their needs or are we talking about the technical aspects? Do we have that unique value proposition documented? Are we talking about that? Or are we still talking about selling a can of beans? Okay, so we've learned a lot through our previous bits. Now this is where the rubber hits the road. In the new market, with all the changes in the coronavirus and how people operate working from home or whatever, how does your current marketing compare? And are you saying the right things to the right people in the right way? Okay, the chances are probably not. And the chances are most people need to update their marketing quite regularly anyway. Okay. In terms of if you're going to do some messaging now, I just want to put a bit of old school marketing methodology. There's things called the 4 Ps and the 7 Ps, and I'll put some information again in the working document for you. When you give your message to your customer, as well as all the big sell stuff, when you're selling a product like that, there's something tangible, like a Ferrari you can touch, like a can of beans you can touch. There's 4 Ps that you need to include in your message. It's around the product description. So yes, it's a can of beans, okay? But then you want a bit more around, okay, it does this, it does that. You want to talk about the place. Now, the place traditionally was you can come to the shop on the corner up there and come in and buy it between the hours of 8 and 5, okay? It's now very different because it's usually you can buy it online, you can be anywhere and we'll ship it to you, whether it's interstate or nationally. So the place is important. Can I get it home delivered? Yes or no? Home delivery is the new thing. If you want a new job, become a courier. So the place is really important, and this is how most people are shopping online. Can I get it delivered? Yes or no? And delivery was really important. So I bought something from a major appliance provider, and it was all around delivery. And then 3 weeks later, they stored and delivered. I found another one. They said, we can deliver tomorrow. I cancelled the other one, did the other one, delivery. And so that place is really important. Price is basic information, it's price, okay? But again, I don't want you selling on price, I want you selling on value. So you only state the price once you've sucked them in around, you really want this because it's so good. And the fourth component was the promotion. So traditionally, this is more about 2-for-1 deals, all that sort of stuff. But again, going back, I want you to protect your margins.
So Brendan, just interrupting you there, I just had a question from Erin. Should my marketing messages be different for different customers?
Yes, absolutely. If you have different customers, You should tailor your message to your customers. Absolutely, Aaron. So yeah, it depends on the product, depends on your customers. But if you've got quite different sets of customers, then you may need to tailor a message to them depending on the market, for sure. It adds a bit of work, but the more specific the message can be that suits the particular customer type, the more efficient and effective it's going to be. Okay. As I said, there's a lot of noise, so you've got to make sure that someone looks and goes, that is relevant to me. If they look and go, oh, I'm not going to read that, it's not even relevant because that's targeting, really old people or for kids or for something else, it's not for me. That one is for me. I'm going to look at it. Good question. Okay, so that's the 4 Ps for if you've got a product. There is a 7 Ps if you're doing a service, because a service like what I do is generally intangible. So before you experience it, you can't really experience it. It can't be stored. So the first of the extra 3 Ps is physical. It's around proof of concept. So again, how do I know, if I want to engage business positive, how do I know they're real? So the first thing I want to do is, oh, yes, they do have a website, and yes, there are people there, and look, they do have customers and they've got content. There's a phone number, they have an office. There's actually a real business here. It's not just a scam. So having some proof around it is really good. The people piece, again, on the service side, because again, you're not buying something you can hold, you've got to deal with the person. So having some information around the person you're dealing with is really important. So again, it's that face-to-face stuff, that's that profile. Having a LinkedIn profile is really important. So if I want to go to this accounting firm or this lawyer, what do I know about this person? Am I going to connect with them or not? So managing the people on a service side is really important. So you've got to promote the people. And again, even if you are doing a product, people are still important. So don't underemphasize it. If it's good family business, if it's good rural business, those sorts of nice stories. People do like to buy things from nice people. So don't be afraid to emphasize the personality, even if it is a product. The last of the P's is process. So if, again, someone wants to engage me and I go, great, here's a bill, and they go, great, and then they don't hear from me for a week. I might be out doing analysis and looking through their financials, doing all that sort of stuff, but if they don't understand the process, it's all a bit confusing and a bit scary, because a lot of these things can take time, and if you're not involved step by step or understand what step by step is, it's all a bit murky and strange. So, I'm going to meet you on this date. We're going to go through this step. 2 days later, we're going to do this. I'm going to have a draft report to you in a week's time. We're then going to go through the action plans and put it into context. We're going to then meet a week later to finalise it, and then we're going to meet monthly from then on to manage the project. Understanding that process is really important, just so people know what they're buying, because services can be quite scary, and they don't understand it. Okay, so really important you put that in place. Okay, all right. The next thing now is trying to wrap all this up and creating your pitch. And again, the pitch, as per Aaron's earlier comment, your pitch may be different depending on your customer. So you've got to wrap up who they are, what they do, what their needs, what you do, what your unique value proposition are. There's actually a ton of stuff that goes into your pitch. People talk about elevator pitches and all that sort of stuff, and it's really hard to actually concisely put one together. And this is why I use externals, because they actually can cut through all the chaff and put something concise together that makes sense and rings true. So this is what you want to do. You want to create what's called a client value proposition, not a unique value proposition, a client value proposition, which is basically how you're going to put everything all together and how you're going to present it to your client. When you've got it and it fits with what you say and it fits with your culture, all that sort of stuff, it's got to represent you and what you do. And when you've got that, it's great. It's a good feeling. It's easy to say, and it resonates with the client. Okay, so really important, and this is why you can have a crack at it yourself, and you'll probably go a lot further from where you were. But if you can, try and get a professional, and they can really help you here. The next step is obviously, okay, how you've got your message. how are you going to communicate it? You all thought you were finished. I've got something to say. How are you going to say it? And this is your message of what I do on my website, what I do on my social media, what do I say to a customer? Do I need brochures? Do I need signage? Put in all that, and not only that, how often do I do it? What's my return? Or if I put a TV adverts, what's the return I'm going to get? And again, you've got to link your communication method to the target audience and make sure it's aligned. If your client base is age 21 to 31, and you want to do a TV advert, then what programs are they watching at what times? And that's when you want your advert to be. It's around the mechanics of targeting your message in the most efficient manner. Okay, quite complex, and it's something that can evolve as you get a new product. How do you launch it? Has it got a different target? If we've got two client types, how do I address them separately? So very, very important, but this, if it does well, is really going to help your sales. So in section 5, we talked about the conversion rate. If you do this right, you're going to greatly improve your conversion rate, okay? Which is what we all want. Again, write down your actions. I don't expect you to know everything now. You're going to have to investigate this and create these things before you can get the plan. Okay, so you've got to understand your market, you've got to understand the new market, you've got to understand the messaging to create your pitch, to create your communication plan. So there's a lot involved here. I'll be very surprised if anyone walks away from today without being a little bit confused and thinking, oh, geez, there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to do.
Just before you go on to the next thing, Brendan,
Yes.
Sandra, one of our attendees, has asked, she sells wedding shoes.
Right.
And I guess I was thinking about her question about she says, how do I improve my marketing and improve sales around that? Because people only buy wedding shoes once, or well,
Yes.
hopefully, I guess they may be more than that, but generally that's their intention at the time, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So have you any thoughts about how she can market that or improve her sales?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a very specific market, which is good, because what you can do now is there's a lot of keyword advertising you can do, and SEO stuff you can do on the internet using Google. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can probably ship, but you've got sizing things. So if you can convert your business so you can size a pair of shoes regardless of where they are, versus the model of do they actually have to come and try them in? Is it a Cinderella slipper or can anyone buy a pair of shoes from you? So I'm not quite sure about your model, but people will it's either word of mouth or they're going to search online to find the place, because it's not something that you've been consciously aware of. There's not a wedding shoe shop on every corner. So generally people we're searching online, it's a very specific demographic and age group. It's probably females between 20 and 40 or whatever, I don't know. So it's a very specific market. There's going to be some keywords. SEO, Google AdWords, going to be really important to make sure that your website gets up the ladder.
Okay. Yeah, and just I think on that point, you made the point of word of mouth, and I think probably in this case, these personal recommendations are probably going to be really important for probably a high value sale, and people want assurance that the product they'll get is great. So those personal connections are really important.
Yeah, I mean, and getting testimonials and feedbacks from your customers. So you sell a pair of shoes to someone who's going to be at a wedding. Get a photo of it, post it, tag them in it, because all their friends who have been at the wedding are also going to be following them on social media. So they're going to see your shoes and go, oh, I know where she bought her shoes, because every time you go to a wedding, someone else ends up getting married. So again, use your existing customers as a referral base. Where they're active, they go and tell people or tag them into your social media. Okay, really important to link that all together. Okay, again, this is where the experts can help you with these sorts of things. Just make sure you partner with your customers, particularly when they're satisfied, and get them to sell your product for you. Okay. There's probably a million of things you can do there. So, but all the best with that. Give us a bell if there's anything else we can help you with. Moving on to operational. Again, boring for a lot of people, but really essential. And we've covered a lot of it already with processes and the mapping, because that's the nuts and bolts of the business. But there's a couple of key things I want to cover off, particularly with the coronavirus changes. And I have touched on it, but I really do want to emphasize systems. As I said, the way systems have evolved, even our accounting platforms going from a desktop version of MyOb to, you know, a Xero or a QuickBooks or an online MyOb, and the apps that you can add into it, you can create whole functional systems that you can operate from your phone very quickly and efficiently. I get an invoice, I take a photo, it links to my accounts. It's just so much more efficient now than what ever used to be. You can monitor things remotely, embrace systems. I've got a brother-in-law who's a builder, a very good builder, but he's scared of systems. So he still is paper everything, and I know it's difficult with the builder because you do have a lot of paper receipts and bits and pieces, and you've got to account for everything. But literally, instead of taking a photo of a receipt and storing and collating it, he takes 2 or 3 days every time he does his BAS and doesn't work. So, and does his BAS that way. To me, that's crazy because he's actually stopping earning money. He's a builder, he earns money by building, but he stops to do his paperwork. If he was more efficient, he wouldn't have to stop that work for those 2 days and would create income. Or he could actually outsource it to a bookkeeper to do it for him. And the cost of that would still be less than the opportunity cost of him going out. Okay, so look at your systems, embrace them. There's a whole lot there. Premises. Premises, again, I rent an office in the city and I haven't been in it in 3 months and I'm not sure I'm going to go back. So, you know, what is the new need for property? A lot of us been working home and realising we can. Particularly now that my kids have gone back to school, I'm getting interrupted less and it's more efficient. But, you know, I can work from home. So the old model of having a very expensive piece of whatever you want to call it, it's different. So what do you need? Consider that. There's shared offices and that where you can, you know, virtual offices where you can have the perception that you have an office. You can have a meeting room that you can use when you need it, or you just go to a cafe and have meetings from a cafe. I mean, obviously this is very different if you're a tradie and you're working from your garage or you're working from a factory, you know, it's quite different. But again, just consider it. Consider it if you're a service or if you're retail. What premises do you need? If you're selling more online, do you need such a big retail presence? Because it's very expensive and it's very risky. If business drops, you still have that big cost. And a lot of you probably experienced this with coronavirus. You had to have that clawback on the landlord for your rent. And luckily the government supported it because otherwise it would have sent most of us bust. Okay, plant and equipment, very similar. You know, we've got to be very aware that plant and equipment are often the risky aspects of the business. Go back to process mapping and your bottlenecks. Plant and equipment, it's expensive to own, it's expensive to buy, you don't want to have too much debt on your business, so understand your plant and equipment and your needs is far better. If you can, for example, I've got a guy who's got a whole fleet of vehicles for his business, and when he's not busy, those vehicles sit there doing nothing, okay? So I've sort of said to him, well, you know, the core ones that you use all the time that have been used 100% of the time, it may be worth owning them, but those that fluctuate, why don't you hire them? Because the cost of hiring them, build that into the cost of the job, and then you don't have that cost when they're not being used. So just manage your plant and equipment. And one of the big risks is us as all business owners, we all buy a car or something that looks cool, but really do we need it? If it's an impost on your business, again, Ferrari, Toyota, you're cool. It's great when the times are good, but when the times are bad, you've still got to pay for that Ferrari. And it's a big cost on the business. So let's be practical, okay? I can't emphasize this enough. You don't go too much of that. Internal processes. So this is a bit where, going back to your process mapping, there's some key things I want you to focus on your business. And again, I've listed some of these on page 18. So invoicing and collecting. It's really important you invoice and collect as quickly as possible. There's a thing called work in progress or WIP, It's a complete waste. You shouldn't be waiting to the end of month to invoice, because you work for a month, then you invoice at the end of the month, and then you send out and you wait 30 days to get paid. Invoice when you do the job, okay? Again, if you've got the right system, even on your phone, you can like invoice straight away, bang on, that's 5 hours, it's connected to Xero, whatever, and it's going to this customer, which is already low, bang, it's gone. 30 days from when you invoice as opposed to 30 days from the end of the month. It speeds up your cash flow. So make sure your process around invoicing is really, really efficient. If you can, invoice them beforehand, get a deposit, get the cash in the door. So, and collections. Collections is likewise really important. A lot of people don't manage it, aren't aware of it, or don't chase. So I had one client the other day, quite a big client, and he didn't have a lot of debtors and a lot of small customers. And we reviewed it the other day, and he found out there was one customer who hadn't paid him for 11 months. So that's 11 monthly payments that they'd missed. So we called them, said, hey, how's it going? And they went, oh, sorry, it was a direct debit on a credit card, and I got a new card, and it hadn't changed the date. Sorry, bang, they paid it. Okay? But it's just being aware of these sorts of things and having the time to manage your business, or making sure someone is managing your business, making sure the cash comes in the door. It's your money. Make sure you've got it. So having the processes around these things is really important. Okay. A similar one to that is stock. So manage your stock. How much do you need? How quickly can you get more? The more you hold, the more cash you need in the business, and the more risk for you if things quieten down. You can't pay the bills with your stock. You've got to have cash. So just be really careful. A lot of people experience some supply risk with coronavirus where you are importing parts and the whole import process slowed down enormously. So just be aware of it. It's often useful to have a second or alternate supply. So if one falls over, for example, there might still be a lot of collateral damage in the market from coronavirus. A lot of suppliers might be struggling. They may fall over. Do have a secondary source, okay? After I think there was the Japan earthquake, and I think Toyota factories sort of got shut down. And it wasn't because the Toyota factory was damaged, it was because all their suppliers, some of them were damaged, so they couldn't get supply. So every single Toyota manufacturer in the world has to have at least 2 suppliers for each part. It's just their risk management. So we've all seen that issue now with around coronavirus. What happens if one of your customers falls over? Do you have an alternate? So managing your stock and your suppliers is also really important, okay? Speaking about that, risk assessment. Now, again, on page 19, I've done a bit of a table around risk assessment. And what risk assessment is, you've got to look at the likelihood and the severity. Okay, so for example, coronavirus severity high, likelihood at the moment high. How are we going to manage it? Okay, and it's all those things of what's going to happen if we do. We're going to go back into lockdown. Am I prepared for lockdown? Am I prepared for working remotely? All those sorts of things. If we get a second wave, hopefully we don't. Hopefully we've got the systems in place, but are you prepared if we do? Okay, so that's what you do is first of all, we've got to go through a process where we identify it, okay? We've got to identify the risk and then quantify it. So I've got a couple of tables there. On the bottom table on page 19, accident causing injury, it's a risk. For a retailer, it's not a huge risk, but for a Sparky, it's a big risk. For anyone who's got a digger, risk. Overhead wires, those sorts of things, it's a real worry. And so you've got to make sure you're managing that risk, because the impact of if you or a staff member or whatever are severely injured or killed on the job, well, it's game over. And we've seen, like, so anyone involved in the electricity industry will see there was an accident that caused a death on Ausgrid when someone was working on a line, and they basically shut down all pole work for months. It's still shut down. So it's been a major impact, and that's had downstream impact on a lot of people. So, and it's an outright, someone's died, we're going to have a major overhaul. So understand your accident risk is really important. You've then got payment risk. Someone doesn't pay you. What do you do? Operational failure. So, that one piece of equipment that there's a bottleneck. If that breaks down, what are you going to do? I've got one bus, one delivery vehicle, and they fail. What do I do? Supply risk. Coronavirus hits China again. They can't get a ship out. Do I have an alternate supplier? Competition risk. What I had was a unique value proposition. My competitor also has now replicated it, and they're marketing it, and they're bigger than me, so they're discounting as well. What do I do? Funding risk. I'm short of cash, and I've got no more money. Mum and dad won't lend any more to me, and the banks won't touch me. What do I do? You've then got like customer risk. So most of my business goes through a single customer or a couple of customers, and they're affected by coronavirus. So this is a really important one, because we're all worrying about ourselves, but how are your customers impacted? We talk about how your suppliers are impacted. If you're business to business and your businesses that you sell to have suffered severely from coronavirus and they're potentially falling over, what's the impact back on you? Are you diversifying? Do you have money out the door? Have they paid their bills? All sorts of stuff. Key man risk is a major one, particularly on you as the business owner. You're often, when you do the SWOT, generally I'd hope to see the business owner as a strength, and you're usually the biggest liability as well. So, and I don't mean that badly. It's the same in my business, and you can ask my staff the same. What happens to you if you get sick and can't come into work? It's either hit by the bus or catch coronavirus. What happens? Are there anyone else in the business who, if they get affected, they resign? What happens? So it's really important you sort of understand what the risks are and measure it, and then you can actually start to manage it. So, you want to sort of, first of all, I mean, you can go really deep with this. This is a whole chapter in itself, or a whole session in itself, because ideally you want to set tolerance levels. So, for example, the tolerance on key man risk I used to work in a bank, and we used to have to record if we got a paper cut in case it got infected or something. So there was a form to write it in. But really, your tolerance level for a paper cut is probably pretty high, as opposed to the tolerance for having an accident on site involving a piece of heavy equipment. So completely different tolerance levels for workplace accidents. And it's going to be very different for very different businesses. So look at your tolerance level, then look at your treatment. Understand it. How am I going to mitigate this? What have I done? Is it sufficient? Am I prepared if it does occur? And remember, there's a lot of risks you might identify which are low impact. It might take a bit of time out of the business, but apart from that, it's not going to be a major. So don't worry about it. Focus on the big ones. Focus on the big impact ones. And then it's the ongoing impacts, okay? And because it changes really quickly. So I don't know if you can see this. This is the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report 2020, okay? So the year we're in. And I went to a presentation from the Australian Institute of Company Directors, and it had this chart, which, sorry, it's very small, so you can't see it, but it's likelihood of severity. So it's exactly what I was talking about. Over here, being high severity but low likelihood, was a global pandemic. Okay, so this was apparently the data was put together in October. So they all rated there's no chance, basically, of a global pandemic occurring. Clearly, that was understated. Clearly, that's occurred. So as I said, your risk profiles and your risk understanding will change. So it's something you've got to keep monitoring, okay? Not very exciting, but very important for your business, okay? So actions, again, jot down what you think out of that. Okay, HR. So this is kind of interesting because the biggest HR issue in the business is probably you. As the business owner, as I said, you're probably the biggest strength and the biggest liability, as I am in my business. So your biggest issue is dealing with your capacity and capability. So, we started these businesses because we liked doing something, we're interested in doing something, we're good at doing something. But we've also had to spend a lot of time doing stuff we didn't like, that was boring, that sucks up a lot of sort of stuff, and we're not very motivated. Sometimes that's actually the easy stuff to do. And we tend to fall in this hole where we're doing all that low value rubbish and not doing the business really good. So managing yourself and managing your time and your efficiency is really, really important. I mentioned during sales that I structure my week around doing sales. I do that a lot with other bits. So admin and finance and meetings. I tend to, Monday's my day of internal rubbish. Not rubbish because it's very, very important, but my time to do my accounts, my time to do all those bits and pieces. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, etc., is all those other bits and pieces, which are the high value stuff. And then I've sort of looked at how to outsource or bring in staff to do a lot of the other low level stuff that sort of is important, but I'm better off doing the higher value stuff. So it's trying to structure so you get the most out of it and you also still enjoy what you do. Okay? It's nothing worse than doing the stress test. Sunday night, do you sleep? I find that if I've got a lot on and I'm stressed and I'm worried, then Sunday night is the night I do not sleep. So I'll be tossing and turning in bed, thoughts will be going through my head, I can't concentrate, I'm stressed. If I'm ahead of the game and everything's under control, all that sort of stuff, sleep like a baby, no problems, okay? Think of yourself, are you getting a good night's sleep or are you stressed? If you're stressed, then we need to free up some time, we need to get some enjoyment back in you. So managing you is the most important part of your job. So if you say HR is not reliant because you're the only member of the business, think again, okay? Manage yourself. You'll do a lot more, be more efficient if you are yourself happy in the business, okay? So that's really important. The other aspect of staff is we often revert to family because they're there. You know them, you trust them, and they're often cheap. There's positives and negatives about this, and you've still got to manage them. You've still got to set expectations. You've still got to manage performance. And the worst examples of businesses infighting is in a family businesses. You know, that you may be brothers, you may be, you know, parents, nephews, nieces, but when it turns to custard, by God, it turns to custard. So just be careful with family. If you're sharing ownership, have a shareholder agreement, set clear expectations, measure those performance, have a vehicle where you can actually raise performance, okay? And often it's hard to do when it's family. And actually, it's a lot of the work I do is dealing with family businesses, almost acting like that intermediary saying, take the emotional decision-making out of the family, put it back into practical business decisions, say, okay, we're doing this and you're doing that, and that's not good. You need to do that. Okay, so a lot of businesses outsource that because emotionally it's very hard to manage. So be careful with family. Obviously, the other option is employ a staff member. And staff, when you're small, is usually at the lower level, but as you get bigger, it's going to get more complex. You're going to have to build up trust. You're going to have to build up capacity and skills. Having those process maps to train them is really important. Having some clear targets is really good. But a staff member can become a leader. They can be the one who frees up that 20 hours for you. They can be the one that allows you to go on a holiday. They can also be the one who buys your business off you. So it's quite important just from succession. So just be really careful of how you manage your staff and plan it. Again, going back to your capacity issues and your sales issues, at some point you aren't going to be able to do everything in your business and you're going to need to expand your capacity. Hopefully, if you do your sales well, then you're going to need extra people. So managing your staff is really important. The other option is outsourcing. So, you know, I think I mentioned my brother-in-law who does the builder who does the books. Outsource it, bookkeeper. Okay, I outsource, well, I've almost insourced now my marketing. And again, it's something that someone else is better at than me, and it would take me longer, suck up my valuable time, and something I wouldn't do as well. So I'm prepared to pay someone else to do a really good job because they're going to be quicker and efficient. It's actually a cheaper thing. Bookkeeping, accounting, marketing, IT, HR is another component you can outsource. So there's a lot of subscription-based things where they provide all the documentation and they are up to date on all the legal. So if you get a staff dispute or an issue or rates or all that sort of stuff, they can advise you based on the latest legislation. So You've always got to factor in your costs and your return on investment, but outsourcing is a good model as you grow and expand, and it's often cheaper than bringing in a specialist staff member. So, for example, marketing, you can employ a marketing person who will cost you a bomb, and they get sick, they go on holidays, they can resign, and their skill set's this. If you employ a marketing company, their skill set's probably this, and they're 24/7, and you can probably do it cheaper. So it's a really good model. Obviously, the documentation, incentives, structures, all those sorts of things with staff or family or outsourcing, it's all really important. If it's just you, you don't need it. And just family, often you might have a first staff member, you probably don't have it either. But as you get more and more, you're going to have to start getting the documentation. So we're talking job descriptions, job contracts, KPIs. So what's their targets? How do you make them accountable? How do you incentivize them for achieving those targets? Promotions, pay rises, all that sort of stuff. A lot of paperwork. But if you get your staff operating well and humming, great results. And they can do far more than you can do on your own. An important aspect is leadership in HR. And again, this comes back to looking at yourself and your capacity and your capabilities. Honestly, a lot of us business owners come from a technical background, not a people background. So we're not natural leaders. You can learn leadership and you can train for leadership, but it tends to be something you have or you don't. So at times you might want to employ that person in your business to take the reins. And it's around managing your own ego here. You've got to be really careful. Am I good at it? Can someone else deal with it? Do I want to deal with staff? So you can either outsource it, so you can delegate it to your staff, or you can actually outsource it. We do a lot of advisory boards for small businesses. So we sit down with the owners and give them advice, and we structure like a board meeting, but we make those decisions. As I said, the same around the family issues, we make a business decision. And so the owner can go back to his staff and say, oh, the board said we've got to do this. And so it takes away that personal pressure on them. So they don't feel like I'm the bad guy, the board's the bad person. Okay, the board is the bad people, and the board have made this decision and you've got to do it. So it just removes a lot of that personal stress from you as a leader. Again, actions. Write down your actions. We can, again, come back to this. And HR will change as your business evolves. So it's something you've got to constantly work on, but you've got to consider, if I'm changing my business, what skill set do I need? So link it back to everything. Okay. Any questions, Will?
Nothing coming through at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm just, yep, that's all for now.
Okay, I'm conscious of time. So number 9 is the last component in the business. Okay, but it's a big one, and it's not the most exciting one, but it's also very, very relevant. So I'm not an accountant, so I'll have you know, I am not an accountant. So I'm trying to put this into language that you can relate to. So it's often the hardest thing, and we ignore it because it's just bloody difficult. Okay. So on page 23 is a profit and loss. It's black and white. It's got a bunch of numbers. It compares one year to the other. And by God, it's boring. What does it mean? What do I do? And look, if I look at it, I'm looking at these numbers. These figures started back from July 2018. That's nearly 2 full years ago. So is it even relevant? Okay, so what am I doing with this? So this is what I do. And so I'm hoping you'll learn a few things. And I use this to help me plan. And I use this to help me put into my business cases. Okay, so if you go to the next page, I've actually added a little bit of colour, a little bit of explanation and some percentages. Same figures as the previous one. But I've learned here that in the last year, I grew my business 7%. So, and that's but that doesn't explain whether I increased my prices by 7% or I increased the volume of sales. So, you need to understand what that is. My cost of goods also went up, which you would expect. But I look at it, and my cost of goods went up 17%. So actually, my turnover growth is not compensating for my growth in cost. My gross profit went up, but my margin went down. That's not good. Go back to that sales success margin. Okay, we've got to be across it. I'm looking at down there, and I'm looking at, okay, my advertising cost went up. I've spent 5,000, but my sales increased by 20 grand. What's that for a return on investment? Maybe. But again, from the start, I don't know when I started that expense. When has the impact been seen, or is it going to come in? So these are just dumb numbers from a point in time. I also see my depreciation went up enormously. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot of depreciation. And to me, and in this case, it relates to the owner bought themselves a nice car. Okay, so there was the instant asset write-off. So it looks like a cost on the business, but it's not actually in terms of a real profit and loss cash figure. So yeah, it's a cost there, but really it's probably unnecessary. Oh look, rent's gone up 20%. Geez, how do I agree with that? Or was I even aware of it? Oh look, wages have gone up 30,000. Okay, and that makes sense. So, you know, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to do line by line. I've added $30,000 in costs, but my turnover's only gone up 20. What have I done? What have I done? And you've got to be aware that your costs, when you add staff, it's a big chunk of costs. And so your costs are going to go up like this in big chunks. It's not even. Unless you you can reduce that chunk by bringing on part-timers or casuals. So your cost base is more even than the big chunky stuff. But in this case, I put on $30,000 of cost, and I only grew my business 20,000. So when you look through it all, my expenses, including depreciation, have gone up enormously, and my net profit's gone down. And this is what a lot of businesses see. More work, less return. Okay, so understand what it is and use that to then make changes. So these are just dummy figures. You've got to do this exercise with your numbers. Okay. Balance sheet, the next one. Again, it's black and white, it's a bunch of numbers. What does it mean? Okay, and people ignore this even more than the P&L, but it's actually probably more important. So it's a base point in time, one day in time. So a balance sheet today is different from the one the day before, and it changes. But so let's break this down a little bit more detail. And this is the same business. So I'm looking at this figure here, and the first thing I look at is I've got no cash. Geez, so I'm about to start the financial year and I've got no cash. I've got current assets of 30,000. Whoop-de-doo, stock and debtors do not pay the bills. But I've got them there. I've got non-current assets of 35. So I've got furniture and fittings of $2,000, and I've got vehicles of 35,000. And remember, I bought that nice car. I've already depreciated 20 grand on it, so it's probably a $55,000 car. Yeah, did I need that to get to and from work? I've gone more, maybe not a Ferrari, but certainly not just a basic Toyota. Okay, so I've sort of bought something I didn't need. And as I go down through the balance sheet, current debt, so I don't have an overdraft, which is good. And I owe my creditors 50,000. My debtors are 20,000, my creditors are 50,000. So I'm better at paying the bills than I am at collecting. GST is high. I think there must be some arrears there, and PAYG is high. So that's the pay-as-you-go installments on your wages. Super looks about right. And then long-term, yeah, I've got a debt. Okay, that probably relates to that car. Okay, so again, yes, I've got net assets, which is great. But if I look at my current ratio, and this is what a lot of banks in that look at, which is my current assets divided by my current liabilities. So how much in cash can I access now if I had to pay on my current bills? And I'm at 0.83%, which is bad. Okay, it's really bad. If that was the bank looking at it, they'd go, no, that's no good. Okay, so that's on the first column. What you want to do is then actively change your balance sheet to improve your business. So if you look at the second scenario, the second column, you'll see I've increased the cash. And what I've done is I've got rid of stock. Okay, so I control my stock. I didn't hold as much stock, so I've ordered less stock. So that saved me $5,000. My debtors, I've called on my debtors, bought in as much cash as I can. I've reduced my debtors to 10. I've got extra cash. Scrolling down again, okay, good, 20 cash. Creditors, I've pushed out my creditors. So I haven't paid quite as quickly. Or I've talked to them and go, oh, mate, I know I owe you that money, can I pay you next month? So again, I've recovered another 5,000. So I look at that and go, great. By manipulating my balance sheet, by understanding my balance sheet, I've got more cash back into my business. Okay, really, really important. Unfortunately, my current ratio is still rubbish. Okay, my current ratio is still really bad because I've got all these debts. I've got some arrears from the GST and POIG, probably related to coronavirus. When it was tough times, I didn't pay my tax bills. Okay, which happens. And it's something many of us are in that position. So you've got to understand long term how that's going to impact you. So if you want to then grow and then get a loan, the bank's going to say no to you at the moment because this is an awful balance sheet. It's better than it was. Okay, so what do we do? And what I would actually do here is I'd sell your car. Okay, you've got this asset. Sell the car, get rid of the loan, buy an old dunger that gets you from A to B, okay? And that frees up some cash that goes back into up here and improves the ratio here. So, you know, look at your balance sheet. What do you really need? This is part of your plan B. If trouble suits, what can I fix? I need to get rid of that. I can free up that, okay? I can get rid of the loans. I can need to free up the vehicle. So I've got some notes on that page, but that's how you should be looking at your balance sheet. How do you need to use it? Okay, really important to understand it. Forecasting and P&L, and sorry, this is a very dry topic, but so important. Page 27 we're looking at now. And forecasting P&L, again, it's really important that your financials look backwards. You want to look forwards and understand what's happening because you need the cash to pay the bills that are coming in tomorrow. Not all that. Don't worry about all that stuff and what you earned last year because it's irrelevant. It's interesting, but it's irrelevant for how you're trading today and how we're changing in terms of your plan. Because if we put changes into your plan, you need to show the impact. Particularly if you do all of those sales we talked about. Okay, your sales are going to go up. We've got to look at how you're going to operate it. You're going to chase your debtors. You're going to manage your creditors. You're going to manage your stock. It's going to have some real impacts on this. Okay, so what I've done is I've just basically taken the full year financials from the P&L and divided it by 12. And I'm just showing the first 3 months, but I've just divided it by 12. And then I've just, from a sales point, I've increased by $500 a month. So it's not significant. Again, I'm looking at page 27 here. So the only things that I've changed is sales. Everything else has stayed the same. And if you look at it, go, my expenses have actually gone down as a percentage, even though my expenses haven't gone down at all. It's just expenses should be relatively fixed, and you've got to manage controlling your expenses and keeping them low. Don't let them creep up if your turnover creeps up. Your cost of goods, which are the items that directly relate to the product you're selling, product or service you're selling, they will change, but your overhead should stay the same. So if they stay the same, your percentage as a total cost will improve, and your net profit will improve. So if you look at that now, happy days. I'm actually sort of, based on those figures, I'm profitable, which is really good. And all I've done here is I've just changed one item, which is my sales figure, okay? But similarly to, you know, that sales success formula, if you go to 28, page 28, I'm going to tweak a couple of other things. So I've increased my sales, but I've done now just a double August. So I've increased my sales, but I've also targeted my cost of goods, okay? Last year we saw my cost of goods crept up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to contact my supplier and I'm going to negotiate better rates because they're not giving me good terms, so I'm either going to ask for better terms or better rates. And in this case, I managed a 2.5% decrease. It's not a huge amount, but it's good. It's good. It's worth having that conversation. So I've changed that. So as you can see, my gross profit margin actually improves as a result. I've increased my sales and I've increased my margin, which is fantastic. I then go down into my overheads, and in this case, remember that rent that went up 20%? Well, I'm going to have words to my landlord because the market's changed. Coronavirus has hit. A lot of businesses have fallen over. There's not the pressure on rental properties there was in terms of, you know, everyone wants a piece, but there's a lot of vacant properties. So I'm going to negotiate with my landlord. And in this case, look, I think I've got the numbers wrong, but I've negotiated a $50 saving. Again, I'm not traveling, so I've saved some money on travel. And then utilities I've greatly reduced because I've put it back on the landlord or I've changed the plan. So as you go through, and I apologise, it looks like I've got some of the wrong numbers there, so ignore the numbers. It's the actions that you're doing. You're looking at increasing your sales, reducing your cost of goods sold, and managing your overheads. And if you can do all three, it has a substantial impact on your net profit. And that's what we want, net profit, okay? Sales can go up all they want, but unless you're managing the other two, it doesn't matter, okay? So forecasting your P&L is really important. Again, manage that, the growth output was around 11% per annum. We were achieving 7. You're going to go out and do all those sales. So what's a good target? Can I do more? Okay? Can I do more? That's the sort of stuff that we want to push and we want to start documenting. Okay, cash flow. Cash flow is really, really important. We're now on page 29, and I'm conscious I'm going to have to speed up because of time, but page 29, all I have done is I have taken the figures from my P&L and put them down on this. And if you look at it, we started cash zero. Remember at the end of the year, balance sheet said we had no cash, so I haven't put those changes in yet. So, but based on the P&L, I'm going to make a profit of 3,491. So I'm going to end up with cash, and next month I make more, and next month I make more. Is that right? And unfortunately, no. Because the reality is cash does not operate in the same way as your P&L. And we're too busy looking at the P&L. So what we've got to do is operate on a cash basis. It's so important. So I've actually rejigged the cash flow on page 30. And what you'll see is, in terms of the sales, in this case, I only collect half the cash in the month I sell it. The rest of the half comes the next month. So there's a delay. So I'm relying on the sales from the previous month. In this case, last month I had a bad month. So I only collected 10,000 from last month. So my cash collected is 22,000. Now I go through cost of goods sold. Accounting, that's an annual fee. So while there's a figure in there for a monthly cost, I don't pay it now. Advertising, it's variable. I'm paying it quarterly. So I'm actually got a big bill this month. Depreciation, it's non-cash. You don't pay. Insurance, it's an annual fee. So in July, I've got a big bill, and so on and so on. And you'll find here on wages bill is lower than the forecast, because wages then get split into what you pay the client, what you pay your staff or yourself, and then what you pay the taxman. It's two separate amounts, okay? You pay the wages there and then, and you pay the taxman often quarterly. So it's different cycles of your cash. And again, you'll notice my wages bill from July is different from August. And the reason for that is I pay wages weekly on a Friday. And in July, there's 5 Fridays. So whereas August and September, there's only 4. So it's not an even, there's 4 13-week periods. If you want to break it up evenly, there's not 12 months, because each month has a different day and it impacts when the cash comes out of your business. So you've got to be aware of this. Super's quarterly, okay? Utilities are quarterly. And then if you look at that, cash after operations, I've made money, but then there's these other cash expenses you've got to consider. My GST. In this case, it's quarterly. So I've got the 3 months previously I've got to pay the GST for. And if this may not be applicable, you may pay monthly. Again, PAYG. I owe for the previous 3 months. I've got debt repayments on that loan for that bloody car. Why didn't I sell that car? Okay. And then I've got ATO arrears, as I've seen on the balance sheet, that I've got to clear. So overall, I've actually got a whopping great negative for the month. P&L, everything was telling me I'm profitable. But when I look at the cash, I'm going to need $16,000, okay? Thank goodness now I know how to extract some cash from my balance sheet and go back to my balance sheet. I'm going to call on my debtors. I'm going to push out my creditors. You've got to understand cash, okay? Really, really important. And some people have a weekly or daily cash flow. So particularly in troublesome times or tight times, you need to manage your cash, because it's how you pay your bills. Okay, don't worry about what's shown on your P&L. It's not important. That's just for accounting purposes. Worry about how much cash you've got in the account. And if you've got a big sort of red number there, how do I get it? Okay, really important to understand. So the forecasting cash. Again, funding. So at some point you're going to need funding. Either to buy that piece of equipment, to get an overdraft, to fund growth. If you're going to grow, it costs money and it's actually risky because you tend to have to buy more stock and your debtors blow out and all that sort of stuff. So you might need some funding. So making sure you understand your balance sheet is really important. There's also a lot of grants and support. There's a lot of government grants. And I think you've got a grant presentation coming up. I use grants all the time with my clients. So they actually use a grant to pay for my services. So it works out really well for me and them. But they are available. You need to investigate what's available for your system, state and federal. And
sorry to interrupt. Just to let you know, next week we'll be doing a session on government grants and making sure you've accessed all the available money and also other grants that are out there. So I'll put the link in the chat box at the end so you can register.
Yeah. And as I said, there's a lot associated with coronavirus. There was a lot in place anyway, and people have forgotten that. So there's a lot there to access. If you can't make the call, give me a call. So, we cover that. And again, talk to your accountants about this sort of stuff or get some support around how to manage your finances. Often your accountant does your P&L and that's it. Okay, they should be planning and forecasting with you, not the other way. Okay, again, actions, write lots of notes. There's probably a whole lot of stuff. Okay. That was all the internal, but now it's what do we do with everything we've gone through? And devising your strategy is actually, as I said, it doesn't have to be a massive shift in what you're doing. It can just be, I'm going to tidy up all the bits and pieces, okay? So don't worry about if you haven't got a big flash strategy, just make your business better, okay? Once you've gone through steps 1 to 9, just dump all the actions. So you'll have an action in each segment, okay? Just collate them. Just collate them in a big table, put them in an Excel spreadsheet, collate them, okay? What you're going to see is you're going to get some themes, okay? You've talked about your model, you've talked about your how, you've talked about your UVP, you've talked about your messaging to your clients. So it should start sort of coming together around what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it. Effectively, you've created to a degree your strategy. So think back where you were. My strategy is actually I'm going to sell the same thing to different places. I'm going to say, sell a completely different thing to a whole lot of different, just go back. The theme will emerge. You would have created your theme and your strategy out of all the actions. Make sure it links back to your personal desires, your own culture. Okay, it's really important that it fits you. You're not doing something that doesn't feel right, okay? This is where it gets a wee bit rubbery, and I've already sort of got a wee bit holistic around the whole what, how, why, but a VVM is vision, mission, and value statement. So the vision is sort of your long-term target. So, if I'm that bean maker, I'm going to be the best bean maker in New South Wales or Australia, and in 5 years' time, I'm going to be the lead market and known for, improving nutrition in the world. It's a big grandiose vision, but that's what you need. Okay, you put a target. The mission is how you're going to do it. And, your mission might be, I work with my stakeholders to devise the most nutritional beans in the planet and, make it readily available. So it's around your supply chain. So it's effectively describing how you run your business. And your values are basically links back to your culture. So again, do you want to be that real tough business person who's ruthless, or do you want to be that caring type? Do you want your staff to have autonomy and trust? That defines your values around its trust, honesty, service, customer, or is it around money? It's around profit. Am I the ruthless person? That defines who you are. From that, you need to start creating your goals, okay? And on the page 32, I've defined what SMART is. So specific, measurable, action-orientated, realistic, and timely. And again, we talked about going back to your financials around, well, what's my sales targets? And your targets can be all sorts of things. It can be financial, by turnover, about your cost of goods, about your expenses, your profit margins. But it can be around your efficiency or your capacity. So I'm going to increase my manufacturing to do 100 parts as opposed to 50. I'm going to measure my customer satisfaction. So they, instead of giving me a 6 out of 10, which they currently do when I ask them, they're going to give me an 8 out of 10. I'm going to have satisfied staff and happy staff. So these are specific, make sure you've got an actual set target you can measure, because effectively these become your targets and your own KPIs that you measure yourself, okay? So this is putting it all together. So this is your strategy. You've got it basically, you can document in a page, okay? The next thing is the implementation of your strategy, and this is the hard bit, and this is what most people miss out on. So you've got to start actually documenting the action plan, not the strategy, the action plan. What are the steps you're going to do, okay? So you've got that big list of actions. What you've got to do is actually quantify. So in terms of quantifying your actions, a lot of them will be, I must do this, and some of them will be, that'd be nice to do. Okay, so let's quantify them, prioritize them, and by quantifying, what is it, who can do it? And be realistic. Everyone's going to say, if you're one person in the business, you're the only one who can do it, right? What about outsourcing? Okay, and if you're doing all these things, what about running the business? You've still got to run the business, you've still got to deal with the kids, you've still got to deal with the family. Be realistic about your capacity, okay? And be realistic about budget. You can either be cheap and do a bad job and take a lot of time, or you can actually invest a bit and outsource and get a specialist to do it and do it quickly. So quantify the actions, break it down, okay? And again, I'll put more on page 34 around this. So once you do that, then you prioritize and sort your actions. Now, some actions may be reliant on something else. So you can't do a communication plan until you devise what your message is. And you can't do your messaging until you've worked out, well, who my customer is and what are their needs. So these are sequential. You can't say, okay, next week I'm going to do my communication plan. You've got to do all the hard work first. So there's going to be orders. So you're going to spread things out. And again, based on the number of resources, whether it's you, your partner, your staff, whether you can share these things, break it down into bite-sized chunks. I'm going to do one task this week. I'm going to do another task next week, and my accountant's going to do one, and I'm going to outsource one. So collectively 3 tasks are done, but I'm doing one. So if you looked at the big list by yourself, you're going to go, oh, that's very, very scary. Okay, so don't do it. So prioritize and sort, map it out. Okay, so you know week by week what you're doing. Make yourself accountable, and then you just got to do it. Okay, you've just got to get stuck in and do it. Hopefully, part of the plan was to free up your time to enable you to do this. So delegate work, pass it out, outsource it, free yourself up to work on the business, not in the business, and start delivering the actions. Really, really important. Okay, the last bit, again, very important, is to keep yourself on track to do it. And again, this is something that often you miss. What you need to do is, if you own a business, you're a director, you need to be your own board and operate a board meeting. So at least once a month, stop, get out of the business, turn off your phone and focus on your business. First thing you got to do is, I've actually put an agenda for your board meeting. Actions from last meeting. So your first one, you won't have any. Go through your financials. Go through your operations and your work and health and safety and your risk. Go through your sales. Go through your HR. Go through any special items or projects, such as coronavirus has come up again. We've got to change. We've got to react. Go through your business plan and look at the actions you had down for that month. What have you done? Any new actions? That goes back to the next meeting, and now you've got a month to deliver it. Okay? Keep yourself accountable. As I said, you can set up an advisory board and get someone to do this for you and keep you accountable, or you do it yourself. Monitor your own performance and progress against financials. So this is where you look at, okay, I forecast this amount, how did I achieve? And if anything's really off, why? Did you do something? Did you not do something? For example, I've got the example on the board where, on the page where the rent didn't go down. So my action is I forgot to speak to the landlord. So that action comes back and I've got to do it again. It keeps reminding me, and it's going to keep reminding me that action that doesn't go off until it's done, because I keep carrying it over and remind myself. Keep yourself honest and disciplined. As I said, this is where having an advisory board where there's other people, be it family members, be it your accountant, be an external advisor like myself, keeps you honest, because they keep going, hey, you haven't done that, you haven't done that, you haven't done that, why not? If not, do you want me to do it? I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to talk to your landlord. These are the sorts of things that using externals can force you and give you that extra resource. Clearly, each month, keep reviewing the actions in your business plan, keep it relevant, keep ticking through. Over time, these little incremental changes will make big impacts in your business, okay? Be flexible, but keep going. Identify issues and changes, because as we know, the market changes. We know things happen. We know the government can cause everyone to go into lockdown overnight. So you've got to identify and react quickly. So the more flexible you can be, the better. And then the best thing is you get to repeat the process again. And I don't mean just review of the month. I mean going back to the start, going back to step one. So every 6 or 12 months, probably 12 months, or even a few years, redo your entire strategy again. Okay, it's really important, because you get caught up in doing the day-to-day and month-to-month, and you're not looking directly at the business, you're looking up a bit again, but stop, pause, look again, okay? As we've seen, the world changes really, really quickly, okay? And repeat it, all right? So I've packed in a lot today. I'm really sorry. So next steps for you guys. Find the time and space to go back, work through the working sheet, put down your actions, okay? Review your working plan, do all the bits, then translate each of the actions into the blank document. And that's the blank document you work on specifically, because I've got lots of examples that don't relate to you. Be specific. Start building your process maps, your budgets, all those bits and pieces that make up components of your plan. Take your time. It doesn't have to be done straight away. So keep coming back to it. And then seek help when you're stuck. But work through it incrementally and you'll get there. The more you put in, the better the outcome. Okay? That's it. I'm bang on time. I'm sorry, there isn't much time for Q&A. Well,
Hello.
any questions there, mate?
Yeah, well, one question came through from Kim, so I'll just address that in a sec. So if anybody else has any questions, please put them either in the Q&A box or in the chat. But the question from Kim was, is now a bad time to start an online store, or should the further upturn in online shopping encourage us? So basically, should she be starting an online store? What are your thoughts?
Look, I think high level, great, okay, because a lot of us are shopping online. And again, even when a lot of people go back into the market and go back to normality, a lot of us will still shop online.
Yep.
And saying that, you've still got to be very specific about what you're selling and how you're selling to, because you can spend a lot of time building an online website with e-commerce and all that, but if you don't target enough, no one looks at it. So it's make sure you go through that full process around who your customers are and how you get the message out to them. Yep. A website as a standalone isn't enough. Okay, online store as a concept, great. Okay, but make sure you've got the other bits and pieces behind it. Make sure you're not holding a lot of stock if no one buys it. Make sure you've got the right terms in the payment process so you're collecting cash straight up. All those fundamental bits and pieces, if you put them all together, then you're going to be far more successful than if you just build a website. But yeah, it is a good time. It is a good time.
Okay, and a question from Binda. Are there any extra steps you suggest for a startup? I don't know, that's a fairly generic question.
Yes, there is. For an existing business, they've got experience with their customers. So they kind of know their customers and understand. For a startup, you don't have that information. So you need to find examples of your potential customer and ask the questions. Ask family, ask friends. This is my concept. What do you think? Ask them how they would react if they saw this. Would they buy this? What's their price points? When big companies do new products or anything, they go through a whole panel situation where they invite random selected people within the demographic of their targets and ask these sorts of questions. As a startup, you don't have the money to do that, but you do know people out there. Contact friends and family. You know, if you're targeting 19-year-old boys, call your nephews or your sons, ask their friends. Get real good direct feedback about your concept before you invest all the time and effort and money to do it, okay? Voice of the customer is really important. We all have concepts of what is going to happen, but the reality is often quite different. So do get the feedback from your customers up front.
Wonderful. Okay, that's a good point. And I think sometimes people do have a wonderful idea, but they don't test it. They invest a lot of money and time and comes to nothing. So be very careful about where you're putting your energy and your money, I think, comes from that.
You could be 90% correct. And it's just that one wee element that you haven't considered or you've got slightly wrong, and it's the difference between success and failure in a startup. Okay, right. So make sure you've covered all the questions and got it right.
Okay. And so very, very quickly, if there are no more questions, if anybody wants to type in a question, otherwise we will look at wrapping up, which is we are almost exactly on 2 hours. So well done, Brendan. That was a lot to cover.
A huge amount.
A huge amount to cover. So please, this is being recorded. I'm just about to stop the recording, but this is being recorded. We'll put this on our website. Refer to the tools that Brendan has shared that I sent round. If you have any issues, just contact me or Brendan. Now, Brendan's details are here on the slide. I will send all this around on an email to everyone that's registered. So don't worry about taking a screenshot. I'll give you all this information. I just want to thank Brendan so much for providing a huge amount of information. I think probably you need a bit of time to digest everything that he's run through, but I think with those tools you can go through, and sometimes, as he said, take it bite-sized pieces. Otherwise, it just becomes overwhelming. So just take bite-sized pieces, go through the process, pick out the bits which you think are most important to you at the current time, and basically, good luck with everything at the moment. Please, I'd love to see you next week at our government financial support session. We have a gentleman called Keith Whelan, who is his business is the grants guy. He knows everything about government money. That's grants and financial support. So if you think you've got everything, but you're not from the government that you're entitled to, please come along anyway, because Keith will ensure that you're accessing everything you can, and also the things that perhaps you're not aware of as well. So please come along to that. The link is in the chat box, and I will also send that round too. The week after that, we'll be looking at LinkedIn, how to maximize your success on LinkedIn. This is especially important for B2B. And following that, we'll be doing some sessions on marketing and also financial planning. So keep an eye out for all of these things. I'll keep you all informed via email and via our e-newsletter. But again, Brendan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Will.
And yes, we'll look forward to seeing you all in the future. So thank you very much.